We have a quorum.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm calling to order Knox County Commission Rules Committee for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. To my right, we have Ms. Kim Ellis with the clerk's office. If you'll call the roll.
Commissioner Rawls, Commissioner Darrett,
Here.
Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
3 members present.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, amendments and additions to the agenda. So we had quite a few late additions, and what I would like to do, if it's okay with the body, is I will read all of the proposed additions to the agenda, and then we will discuss and vote on them individually if we want to add them to here today to this agenda. Does that sound good? All right, so I'm going to read them all first. The first one is moving the agenda item regarding the right-of-ways to the beginning of discussion and consideration so that engineering and public works staff, we can discuss and vote, and then they don't have to stick around. So that would be the first one. The second one would be to revise the language to differentiate commission and non-commission board and committee appointments. In Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointments. That is my agenda item. Discussion and consideration of revising language to open the appointment application process for boards and commitments. That's also my item. Discussion and consideration of amending the election process in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointment. That is Fox. Discussion and consideration of amending the consent calendar process in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section P. That's also Fox. And then discussion and consideration of revising language referencing the Development Corporation in Rule 2, and that is also mine. So I'm going to go back through these one by one, and if we'll just take a vote on what we want to add and here to the agenda today. And then you've received kind of a guide, should all of these be added to the agenda. That is the order in which we will hear them, okay? So the first one, move agenda item regarding right-of-ways to the beginning of discussion and consideration. I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda. Second, all in favor? Aye. All right, great, we got that one. 2, discussion and consideration of revising language to differentiate commission and non-commission board and committee appointments in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointments. Make a motion to add.
Second.
All right. All in favor of a motion and a second? All in favor? Great.
Hang on 1 second, Commissioner Frazier. So basically, number 1 of this guide is really just moving number 7 up to number 5.
Correct. So we'll get to that when we get to discussion consideration of any late additions. That will be the order in which we'll hear them. And so the old agenda will just be amended.
Got it.
Okay. I know it's a little bit confusing because we had so many come out late. So
are we technically on number 5 right now of the agenda?
no, we are amending and adding to the agenda right now. So we're still on B, or y'all don't have that portion, I just have it out for me, but adding the discussion and consideration of revising language to differentiate commission and non-commission board and committee amendments, and you do have that proposed language in your packet. So we had a first and a second. We voted, okay, great. Discussion and consideration of revising language to open the appointment application process for board and committee appointments in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointment. Have a motion to add.
Second.
I have a proper motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay. Moving on. Discussion consideration of amending the election process in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointments. Before we vote, I wanted to say, because we received the supportive materials on a Sunday, I heard from some of the body that the first working day is today, and they felt like they didn't have enough time to consider. So I would like to make the recommendation that we hear and discuss at the next regular meeting, which will probably be early April, because it's pertaining to reorg. We're not going to reorg in the next 9-10 months. So if that would please Commissioner Fox, I would just like to add that to the next agenda meeting.
Yes, that's fine, because I thought we would probably use at least one meeting, or at least 2 meetings to discuss it anyways.
Okay.
So I felt, you know what, there's no hurry, so if you want to push it off and give everybody ample time, that's fine.
That would be great, thank you for that. All right, we'll move that to potentially, I think we'll probably meet again in April. Okay, so motion to move the discussion consideration of the election process to the next regular scheduled rules committee meeting.
Second.
All right, the proper motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic, thank you all. Discussion consideration of amending the consent calendar process in Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section P, consent calendar. Wanted to let you all know, I did refer to our legal department. I ran this by them and they had some comments. So Director Book, I'm going to turn that over to you because this will come into play with adding and having.
Yeah, it's basically you can only vote on the agenda on non-consent items. So the way we do it, we have, if it's on consent, it's a given, it's done. And if somebody wants to vote against it, then they need to say, okay, I want that removed. That's what we've always done, removed from the consent agenda. And then it is discussed, and then a vote is taken so that the vote is recorded, but the vote can only take place by way of a called vote by the chairman. And, you know, a lot of times it's unanimous, like on our consent calendar, and everybody votes yes. If somebody wants it removed, then it comes and goes on the agenda and you vote yea or nay, or abstain. Those are the 3 options. So I don't think the way that it was worded meets the requirements that have to be met for an open meeting and recording of votes on that item.
Okay, so it's your recommendation that we should include on the agenda for discussion? Because we can't legally.
I mean, you can discuss
see
it.
what is being proposed.
But that's my opinion. I don't think it would be a valid, it would not be a valid rule for this body or for the county commission, the way it's written.
So Commissioner Fox, you can still make a motion to include on the agenda for today to discuss further. Or we can not put it on the agenda and you can talk with the law department on the language or any.
Well, if we're going to follow proper order, if we're just going to have a discussion right now, I just want to say that, you know, I, for the record, attempted to make a expedited way to register opposition to items on the consent agenda without objecting and enforcing an individual vote. So I just want to say to my fellow commissioners, I tried.
There you
But,
go.
okay, I
We
tried.
appreciate the effort, thank you. Yes, so we will make a motion, and I will look for a second that we will not include this on today's agenda item based on recommendations from the law department.
Second.
All right, proper motion with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you guys. Okay, and then the last one is discussion consideration revising language referencing the development core in Rule 2. And this applies to the chair and vice chair responsibilities in sections D and E. I make a motion to add, this is cleaning up language, by the way, on this one. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I will look for a motion to set the agenda as I read. Oh, as we just discussed. So moved. All in favor? Oh, I need a second.
No,
Second. Okay, second by Fox. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on. Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. That was September 24th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A proper motion, and then I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you guys. Public forum, we didn't have anyone sign up. Discussion and consideration of any late additions. So this is the order in which we will hear things. Rule 5, miscellaneous, section C, road and right-of-way closure. That's engineering and public works. Rule 6, miscellaneous, section E, honorary resolutions, proclamation, discussion items, adding language for the definition of ordinance and resolution. Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, section M, elections or appointments. Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, section M, elections or appointment. Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, election or appointment. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing that one. Skipping down to Rule 2, Chair and Vice Chair, Section D, responsibilities of the Chair and responsibilities of the Vice Chair. All right, everybody with me? Thank you all. All right. So now we will go to our agenda items. First off, we have Jim and Aaron here with Engineering and Public Works to discuss the miscellaneous section of road and right-of-way. You have a copy of the proposed changes in your packet. Jim, Aaron, would you all like to speak to this a little bit and tell us the impetus and what this will change for us?
Sure, I'll be happy to kind of kick us off there, Commissioner Frazier. I appreciate everyone's time today. This is, Aaron primarily handles these closures, dealing with the applicants, and these are some things that, if you all remember a couple of months ago during the Low Betty closure, there was some questions brought up, and we just, as Aaron really dug into those rules, your all's rules, that there was some things that the rules didn't necessarily align with what our practice was, so we just kind of wanted to bring these things to you all. And really the first one there is something that we're not per se recommending, we just want to bring to the body for consideration, is for as long as I've been here, which is quite a bit of time, we've always done road closures by 2 readings. After speaking with the law director's office, they kind of asked why we did that. There's only, I guess by statute, there's only 1 reading that is required. So, I mean, obviously, as you all know, 95% of our road closures are pretty straightforward, and that does add time to someone as they're trying to get through some things. So we just wanted to bring that to this body for their thoughts, considerations. Certainly don't want to ever take away anyone's right to, have a voice and the transparency of 2 readings, but for whatever reason, we've done 2 readings for a long time, and we're not required to do 2 readings. So I guess I would just like to get your all's opinion, thoughts on that, and we can certainly follow whatever guidance you want to pursue.
Sure. I mean, I agree with you. I think that I read it, I like it. I think it will streamline the process a bit. And I have no problem with bringing this recommendation before the commission for a vote.
Okay.
And Director Stoner, if I remember correctly, this was in regards to a road closure that you all
Yes.
submitted, correct?
Yes, and that kind of goes into the second and third items. The petition, or pardon me, the rules talk that the petition must be filled out even if we are the response or applicant. And as you can imagine, sometimes we're going to request things for public safety that folks aren't ever going to like. So we felt like, Aaron and I felt like that when we're the applicant, when we're asking on behalf of the public for the safety, that we still have the notification requirements, but that we remove the fact that everyone has to agree, because oftentimes we may not get that concurrence, but yet it's still in the best interest of the public to do so.
Right.
The other item that we had, and we've kind of ran into this a time or two, is if, most of these road closures are typically just generally cleaning up of old right-of-ways, or something that's very straightforward and simple, or something that we feel like is in the best interest of the public for safety. There are instances, though, where the applicant comes in that he's trying to do something that really isn't something that per se is bad, but something we don't necessarily want to be the sponsor on, because it's not something related to something that we would otherwise do to provide for the safety of the public. And we won't, at that situation, rather than us be that sponsor, ask for a commissioner to sponsor it. The example I can think of, and Aaron can maybe elaborate a little more, is we had a road that these folks wanted to close, and they wanted to close it back some distance from its current terminus. We wanted a turnaround, because obviously, as it exists today, it's a grandfathered condition.
Right.
But when you bring that closure point back, then it's a new condition, and we would require through the fire code to have a turnaround. The applicant didn't want to do that, and he reached out to his commissioner, and the commissioner was willing to sponsor that on his behalf. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. I don't think it's to be a big issue, but I, as an engineer, can't recommend it. So we just wanted to have a couple of things in there that gave the commission the flexibility to be the sponsor when we maybe didn't feel like it was the appropriate things. Do you have anything, Aaron? Okay, so those are just general cleanup things. Aaron does this and does a great job with it. And so I just really appreciate her work on these things, because I think these are some things that I think will provide really a more streamlined process to your constituents.
All right. I make a motion that we approve the recommendation to be heard by commission. Second. I have a proper motion and a second. All in favor?
Well, I'd like to discuss just a little bit.
All right.
I just want to hear a little bit more about the state law on the number of readings that are required to, do this.
One, that's all.
Okay.
And Mike Moyers and I have both researched this, and he makes a comment, of course, he's been here since Adam. And he said, we've always done it, like Jim said, we've always done it that way, but there's nothing in state law that requires 2 readings. So we're in compliance with state law with this.
Okay.
Does that help you, Commissioner Fox?
Yes,
Discussion?
yes.
Is there any further discussion?
What recourse does somebody have? I'm just thinking like the situation where somebody moves in, maybe even after the notice has been given, that they move in, they say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want this road closed. I didn't know it was being closed. Is there any recourse for someone affected by this? Because this would be considered a legislative decision, so you'd have to file a certiorari. Is that what you'd have to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the recourse.
Legislative, it's declaratory judgment.
Okay,
If
it's
it's administrative,
it's certiorari.
cert.
Okay, so that is the recourse then?
That is the recourse.
Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, thank you. I'm ready.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next one is, where are we? Honorary Resolutions Proclamation. This is adding the definition of an ordinance resolution to section E. And you have there, these are the definitions as defined by our legal department. Ordinance and rule established by authority, a permanent rule of action, a law or statute, a resolution, the determination or decision in regard to its opinion or intention of a deliberative or legislative body usually employed to denote the adoption of a motion, the subject matter of which not properly constitutes a statute. So I'll look for a motion and a second and then discussion. Motion to approve, second. Any discussion?
Yes, first of all, I like the fact that these are being defined. Commissioner Frazier, you're the one who defined
Yes.
these two, okay.
No, the law.
The law
The law
department.
department did, okay, all right, so is there like a case that these two definitions are relying upon, or just the reasoned wisdom of Mr. Moyers, who's been here since
He used Black's Law.
Huh?
He used Black's Law.
Black's Law? Is that
He
what?
used Black's Law.
Yeah, I think that's what he used on that. Yeah, Black's Law Dictionary. Straight out of there.
All right.
All right, I'll look for a motion to recommend to commission as approved.
So moved.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
motion.
Sorry,
Aye.
just looking for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. All right, moving on to the next one, which is Rule 1, Board of Commissioners, Section M, elections or appointments. This is just to help clarify the language as to what applies to commission and non-commission boards and committees. And it would just be amending the second sentence to strike elected official before vacancy, so that the sentence would read as follows. I don't have the as follows. All right, before any, yes, you have this as well. Before any strike elected official vacancy is filled by the commission shall issue a public notice to receive resumes from candidates seeking appointment to the vacancy at least 7 days, calendar days prior to a meeting to fill a vacancy, and there shall be a public hearing for any elected official vacancy. So this is, well, I'll look for a motion and then a second we'll discuss. Motion to approve.
Second.
You're not on the committee, Commissioner Jay, but I appreciate you.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
It does say that you are, and we apologize, that was an administrative error on that. We did check, but we're so glad you're here, and if you would
I've been on
like
it
to,
for so long, it was.
if you would like to participate in discussion, we will definitely welcome that.
Second.
Second, I have a motion, a second, and now discussion. So this was something that I know that several colleagues, we had kind of talked about how we would like the opportunity to review additional resumes and not just automatically reappoint someone who has served on a board or committee. And so I think this happened at commission where there was a motion and a second to actually do that for one of the appointments to a board or committee. So I just am making the rules support the ability to do that we can openly hear resumes for appointments to boards and committees.
Can I ask a question on that, the law
Yes.
department?
Sure.
Now, these would have to be published in the newspaper, correct?
Yep.
Asking for resumes?
Well, I'm sorry, my discussion was actually to another point. This is just to clarify commission and non-commission boards and committees. It's taking out the elected official vacancy.
But it's adding it after Aaron.
I guess my question is, why would we only have a public hearing for an elected official vacancy and not a non-elected official vacancy?
Because you hear them during the application process when a vacancy is open on a board and committee. As we get into the next amendment to the rules, which opens the applications to receive resumes, those individuals do come to the meeting and we can call on them to talk about their experience and why they want to serve in that capacity. So they are actually speaking publicly at the meeting, but for an elected official vacancy such, let's say someone is no longer serving on commission. Correct?
Yeah, like, let's say one of the independently elected officials decides
Right.
one day to move to California, or gets eaten by a shark.
Yes, yes. For any reason that an elected official has to step down from their elected position, that would clarify why we would need a public hearing for elected official vacancies.
To me, it seems like, I'm fine with taking the elected official, striking that through, but you get into a conflict between the general and the specific. I think if you put in any elected official vacancy, because when there's an interpretation of a rule, you first look at the general, and the general controls the interpretation of the specific. So it sets up a clash, because then here, while in number 2, it does talk about number 2 also has basically a public hearing, in a sense, on nominees for boards and so forth. So it seems like it limits what can happen in section M, number 2.
I think what you're trying to say is, for elected officials, it requires a higher level of engagement. So you're going to call a specific public hearing. For everything else,
Yes.
you can do that as regular course of business as part of your agenda.
Correct. Correct.
But you're also codifying, no matter if, for anybody, anytime there's a vacancy, a board position has ended the end of its term, even if somebody would like to reapply and serve another term, you're still going to publish it somewhere in the agenda, and you're still going to welcome applications. It's not just an automatic.
Well, okay.
Which this just to clarify, the amendment that was provided to you, that addresses both of my agenda items, to open it to the process, and then also for clarification of commission versus non-commission. I know, it's clear as mud.
Well, it doesn't,
Which I referred to our legal team to expound.
okay. I guess my question would be, do we have a public hearing for non-elected official vacancies to be filled?
No.
We don't have a public hearing?
No.
They would do it during the public
They do
meeting.
it, they do it during our regular
public
meeting. It would be an agenda item on our commission agenda
Mm-hmm.
to fill a vacancy. And
Right.
then anyone who's interested and had submitted a resume, they would get an opportunity to present their qualifications to commission, and we would vote on it.
Much like we did for the most recent merit board appointment.
Yes.
Okay. So, really, it's the definition of, I guess what I'm confused about is the definition of what a public hearing is. So you're saying a public hearing is a specially called, is there somewhere that defines that says public hearings are specially called meetings for the purpose of, meeting statutory requirements to accomplish certain undertakings or something like that?
Let's see, we have special committees. I'm looking to see if we have a definition of what constitutes a public hearing or special called meeting. I don't think we have that defined in our rules. Director Booth, do you see that?
What, this first part of this is pulled directly from the statute with regard to elected officers, the trustee, whatever. And that's the wording straight from the statute. It says a public hearing, and it doesn't define public hearing. You're correct, there's no definition of public hearing. But that's straight from the statute right there.
What's throwing me here is, I don't know, somebody could argue, well, we don't have to have a public hearing for these other things, because when you specify, there's a legal concept called, I can give you the Latin for it, it's expressio unius exclusio alterius. So somebody would say, I don't think would ever come up, maybe I'm being over picky, but Mr. Booth, I'm sure knows what I'm talking about. If you specifically state one thing, then the alternative is excluded. So, and we have an alternative here. We have the non-elected official hearings. That's what's throwing me about this, that it specifies it. You have a resolution for that, Mr. Booth?
Yeah, we've all, and it's stated here in 2, and I think what this proposed amendment is, it says, prior to meeting, 7 calendar days prior to a meeting, which would be like we did with the merit board, in coming up with somebody there, and on top of resumes, the commission always invited anybody else that wanted to take part. So it was wide open, and we had that, and then they voted. And she has in this thing here, there shall be a public hearing for any elected official, which is exactly what the statute says. So, and we have public hearings all the time, like on, trying to think right now, we have to have a public hearing on ordinances. So, there is no definition of public hearing. You are correct. I don't see a definition of public hearing.
So the question is, but we have what I would call a public hearing to appoint other people too. That's what's throwing me. And
well, no, it's not a separate public hearing. It happens within, as Kim pointed out, it happens within the meeting itself when you're going to, and you can, and they're very good. Commission's always been good at these. We had one when the trustee had to step down, and so we had public hearings on those applications that came in, and then they voted. So yes, it was a public hearing, but because it was elected, So it was a separate public hearing, but for like merit board, which is the most recent one, that doesn't require the separate public hearing, but it's a full hearing in front of commission.
Okay, all right. I'm being overly difficult this year.
I think we just notice it differently, like it tells us that Drew's got to have a separate meeting that says the commission shall hold a public hearing.
Yeah.
And that's different than the regular session where it's
All right.
public too, yeah.
Good. All right.
Yes. So this, if we recommend this amended language to commission, that is going to take care of 2 of my additional agenda items. So this will clarify what is commission and what is an appointed, and then also will clarify that if we are opening the resumes or the application process up for resumes. Okay?
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Now I'm looking for all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We will recommend that to commission for a vote. All right. So the last one is Rule 2, Chair and Vice Chair, Section D, responsibility of the chair, and Rule 2, Section E, responsibility of the vice chair. So we have a commission, and Julie, you will know what the date was. There was a resolution that addressed that the Development Corporation, the name changed to Joint Economic and Community Development Board. And so we are cleaning up the language in our rules to reflect that name change, as well as in the resolution, it stated that the chair of commission will serve on the Joint Economic and Community Development Board. But our rules also state that the vice chair will serve on that body as well. The resolution does not state that. So we are cleaning up language to align with the resolution that was passed at commission. So you have that, and it's basically responsibilities of the chairs on page 11 under number 4, representation. The Development Corporation, TDC, we will be replacing that language with Joint Economic and Community Development Board. And then on section E, responsibilities of the vice chair, which is page 12, we're going to just delete it entirely because the vice chair does not serve on the newly named Joint Economic and Community Development Board. So I am looking for a motion to amend the language as recommended by this body to commission. So I have a proper motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Great. Thank you all very much. Jumping down to other business, just again want to encourage the members that we do have a suggested addition or amendment to the rules. Work with the law department. They are such a great resource, and it will cut down on some of the legwork that we as commissioners actually have to do. And then also, just a reminder, when you receive a notification for the meeting, please respond with your plans to attend so that we know that we have a quorum. And then also any agenda items that you might have. That way we have enough time to get out to the members for consideration. Is there any other business? Do we want to schedule our next meeting? I'm looking to April. If Tuesday works for folks, I know Courtney has a standing meeting at 3.
So as long as it's before or after.
And I know Tuesdays are typically good for our other members as well. So I'm looking at Tuesday, April 1st, or can't do Tuesday, April 15th, but I can first this time. April 1st? April Fool's Day?
Yeah, I think I have something that day, but.
Okay, well, let's look at,
my
not the
calendar-
15th. I can't do
Wednesdays
15th.
aren't terrible either, usually for me.
Commissioner Lee says she had a conflict on Wednesdays. I want to say she said Tuesdays with us. What about Tuesday, April 22nd at 2 p.m.?
My calendar decided to,
Blackout?
decided to take the account I undo my account, please.
So we're proposing.
Yeah, I'm available on the 22nd.
All right, so let's set our next meeting for Tuesday, April 22nd at 2 p.m. here in the commission conference room. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And those are all February, correct?
Those are all.
All the items you approved today on.
Yes,
the
we'll go over the
agenda.
February agenda.
Okay.
Absolutely, thank you so much. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.